afternoon, I'm Sophie Burge.
And I'm Carmody.
Students from around Melbourne have gathered on the steps of the State Library to protest the government's proposed budget cuts to universities. Isabel Stewart reports on the rising tensions between university students and the federal government.
Tax the rich! We've got a budget fix! Tax the rich!
With the May budget outlining a plan to increase university fees and lower the HECS repayment threshold, students have rallied together in a display of frustration. But this isn't the first time that the government have tried to cut university funding, and students are confident that they can force the government to reconsider the proposed changes.
When Tony Abbott wanted to introduce this in 2014, there was thousands of students who came out on the streets, and they actually, were able to convince politicians that it would be political suicide if they voted for these attacks.
Although there has been widespread uproar over the proposed cuts, some students have remained disengaged with debates over the budget or are unaware of the specifics of these cuts and their potential effect.
To be honest, I don't really know anything about the latest budget cuts to education.
Personally, they don't bother me too much, but I know that there are a number of students that will be affected and won't be able to make the repayment.
Living in inner city Melbourne, given the cost of living, that's too low to be having to pay it back, I think.
As debate about tertiary funding continues, the question as to whether the cuts are necessary remains. Australia has the fourth lowest corporate tax rate in the G20, and yet the government planned to cut corporate tax by a further $65.4 billion. At the State Library protest, many of the chants were directed at Malcolm Turnbull, calling for the Prime Minister to dedicate more funding to education and not for large corporations. Both Labor and the Greens have also voiced their concerns about the budget cuts, saying that it will create issues regarding equal opportunity for students.
This is about making sure Australia is an equal society for everyone and that we have education for all, not just the rich.
With at least some of the government already on their side, students will have to wait and see how this issue plays out in Parliament. Isabel Stewart, RMIT.
Melbourne's Chapel Street is home to some of the city's favourite bars and nightclubs. The bustling strip is also notorious for its recreational drug scene. In the aftermath of a string of deaths from a bad batch of MDMA in January, Victoria Police have devised a controversial solution to endemic drug use. Georgia Thomas has his report.
Partygoers, beware. Victoria Police has their eye on you. Operation Safe Night has swept Chapel Street in a bid to stamp out recreational drug use. The operation was launched in April and is taking a hard-line approach to drug consumption. Safe Night is supported by specialist groups including Task Force Raisin, the Transit Safety Division and Highway Patrol. Every weekend, teams of police have patrolled entry lines to nightclubs with trained detection dogs.
Police with full awareness of what they were doing, intimidating, threatening, otherwise law-abiding citizens.
There is a remarkable difference of opinion surrounding drug policy in Australia. Critics oppose the current strategy of prohibition typified by Operation Safe Night.
Issuing criminal sanctions for drug use isn't an efficient way to tackle the drug problem that we are currently in.
A 2014 United Nations report found that Australia has the highest proportion of recreational drug users in the world.
Drug users are vilified and alienated by society.
To date, Operation Safe Night has led to dozens of arrests for drug possession. The campaign is scheduled to run until August this year. Ms Matthews argues that Operation Safe Night is misguided.
I think that money and resources should be going towards either targeting people who are trafficking commercial amounts of drugs, or better yet, the money and resources should be put into rehabilitation.
People should be able to know what they're taking rather than scaring them into not taking anything.
Yeah.
People are going to take it whatever you do.
Drugs are our fun.
Victoria Police declined to comment, but their message is clear. Melburnians are to continue taking illicit substances at their own peril. Georgia Thomas, RMIT.
Construction workers in Australia are at an increasing risk of facing mental health problems. With high suicide rates in the industry, what is being done to help our tradies? Anthony Furchi reports.
It's not uncommon to see signs warning tradies about the physical health dangers they'll face on site, but it is uncommon to see any warnings about the mental health dangers. Ron Ricketts' accidental death on a worksite in November 2015 prompted Michael Lee to seek counselling, both for himself and his workers.
So a couple of them didn't know Ron that well and said, "Oh, it doesn't affect me." And I think it did a little, but whether they owned up to it, no.
This is usually the first and most dangerous hurdle for tradies to overcome. Often they will feel like they don't need help. Mr. Eade felt the same way.
I was probably not going to talk to them, thinking I was fine, until they sort of said to me, you don't look well.
Heavy physical labour, long hours, and the typically masculine culture of construction work all play a part in shaping this mentality. Incolink are attempting to change this. They offer counselling services specifically for those working in construction, but there is still a long way to go.
We have got the highest suicide rate of any other industry in the building industry.
Male tradies in particular are overrepresented in these statistics. Mr. Vigilante explains.
It's just traditional,
Yeah.
you know. It's that cultural stuff that we are Superman and we need to deal with things on our own. It's so critical that men we start getting used to seeking support around mental health issues to avoid and reduce that kind of suicide rate that we're experiencing in our industry.
While the situation regarding mental health in the industry may seem bleak, Incolink and tradies themselves are taking steps to change the culture.
It's a generational change, and so we need to keep doing a lot more work at the TAFEs with the tradies, you know, the people that come through, and we do a little bit of work there, education, because we want to sort of make that change very early.
They can come and see me if they've got a drama, either a home drama or they're scared of something on the job or whatever. But whether it sinks in or not, time will tell.
Anthony Furchi, RMIT News.
As Melbourne's population is set to double in the next 30 years, the state government has made comprehensive changes to development restrictions. Sophie Lewis reports on Victoria's latest planning reforms and what that means for Melbourne's leafy east.
In the eastern suburb of Camberwell, the new is fast replacing the old. Under recent urban planning, the Victorian government has called on well-serviced suburbs to make room for high-density development.
I love the older houses, and I get upset when I see large buildings with multi-stories.
Local resident Meredith fears increased housing diversity will be at the cost of her neighbourhood's character. The government has lifted the two-dwelling limit on individual sites, introducing a mandatory height limit of 11 metres. Developers must also meet a minimum garden requirement.
Planning Minister Richard Wynne says the reforms are based on recommendations from the Independent Advisory Committee to end confusing planning decisions. Mr Wynne says the changes will ensure the protection of the Aussie backyard and continue to preserve Melbourne's leafy eastern suburbs.
But there are concerns the legislation will not end fence-to-fence development.
Well, I don't think it does protect the Aussie backyard. Where are the green spaces?
Planning expert Stephen Rowley says saving an area of the site to be undeveloped is problematic.
It's illegal to have more than a certain percentage of garden area, but it's very hard to define what garden is in the way the control's worded.
For Samuel Group Development Manager Romy Jackson, the reforms are a game changer.
The change specifically to the neighbourhood residential zone allows you to bring in a more affordable product from a price point.
The local Burundara Council has condemned the unlocking of neighbourhood residential land, announcing it will conduct a study to increase heritage overlay protection.
The challenge in a place like Burundara is how you get that balance right to ensure that they're making a reasonable contribution to the provision of housing while still recognising that yes, those are really nice areas and there is something of value worth protecting there.
Burundara Council residents have organised a rally on the steps of State Parliament next month in a bid to safeguard their suburbs. Sophie Lewis, RMIT.
Planning Minister Richard Wynne has announced that Collingwood College will receive funding to build new basketball courts. After years of requests, the new development is set to be a game changer for refugee and other disadvantaged children in the Collingwood area. Harrison Reid reports.
Deng Dut fled South Sudan in 2005 and came to Australia with his family for a better shot at life. Living in the commission housing on Hoddle Street in Collingwood, it was only a matter of time before he would find the Collingwood All-Stars Basketball Club. The person he is today has very much been shaped by opportunities the club has given him.
So I came to Australia in 2005. I started playing basketball in 2008. Collingwood is the best club I played for because the opportunities they provide for everyone, the way they look after everyone in the club, and just it's so fun to play around all the kids and stuff. And like also coaching the kids is fun. I have a lot of fun coaching them because a lot of them come to my games, they watch me, they look up to me, and I just want to provide something for them.
The new stadium will undoubtedly attract new families to the sport, and as club coordinator Vicky Georgiou explains, the opportunities they can give to underprivileged and refugee kids will be endless.
What the money will do for the club is it will help us to give a location for children that can't get to other areas on their own effort.
It's great people like Vicky that just want to see the kids having fun rather than getting into trouble.
Keeps them off the streets and makes them have something that they enjoy.
A range of local kids with varying levels of ability come to play basketball here in different age groups and programs. Some kids come here on Tuesdays just so that they're playing sport and getting active rather than hanging out on the streets. One thing they all have in common though is they love their ball. And these funds will give a greater opportunity than ever for kids from all walks of life to get active and have fun with their mates.
Such opportunities for which Samaya, Durko and her friends are extremely grateful.
It's a place where we can all come as a community, you know, where students people can just join because, you know, like, we used to stay at home and clean, but like, it's a place for us to all come, have freedom, enjoy our life,
Collingwood is not only scoring points on the court, they're scoring better futures for their kids. Harrison Reid, RMIT.
That's it for this episode of RMIT City Journal Video News. Go to our website at cityjournal.net for more news, or join the conversation on Facebook by searching City Journal RMIT. I'm Dylan Carmody.
And I'm Sophie Burge. Thanks for joining us. See you next time.